Lately, I've been assisting many South African citizens that are living and working abroad, making a good living and looking to invest their hard earnings into the property market here in South Africa to prepare themselves for when they do plan to settle back home and have a property in which to move into. But in the meantime, they are keen to acquire the property for the purposes of rental income and have that, contribute towards the home loan repayment. During my assessment process, I'd like to just unpack today on what it is that I extract from the information, or firstly, what is the information that I call for to accurately assess a South African citizen living and working abroad. What is it that we need to assess? What are the documents required? And what we find the bank's responses are when submitting this official application to them once an offer to purchase is signed. So in my initial consultation, I will cover the minimum requirements, which is permanent employment. If it is a contract, the contracts are usually in place for a 12-month period minimum and can be extended. So those are usually the type of contracts we come across. And then we call for 6 months historical pay slips, as well as the banking statements that correlate with the payslips deposits. Those are the minimum criteria that we need to check off. And then we look at your visa as well. We need to confirm that you are, of course, legally able to work and earn a living in the country that you're working in, and that is set up for at least a period of a year, or at least, for that period of that specific contract that we are now assessing for your affordability. So this is the crux of the criteria that we look at. If you do already own property and you're earning rental income, we can also include that into the assessment. If you have a spouse that's also working and living and earning, or a partner or a friend that you wish to apply with that's also working abroad, living abroad. I've recently assisted a brother and sister. They're working in two separate parts of the world, yet the criteria was exactly the same. The contract we looked at, the 6 months historical pay slips, the confirmation that the salary payments are paid to their individual personal bank accounts. And if they entered into contracts that were newly initiated, we just ensured that those contracts were on a permanent basis, on a renewable basis, or an open-ended contract was in place, right? So those are the little things that we look at when unpacking a South African citizen that's now living and working abroad. It's similar to a foreigner that's living and working abroad. Many of the banks here would look and ask for confirmation of permanent employment, 6 months historical pay slips and banking statements, as well as if you're not working perhaps in the country of your original birth, or country of your birth, then you would be called to also present visas in that instance. However, what differs with a South African citizen living and working abroad's assessment to a foreigner living and working abroad's assessment is that the loan to value percentages are capped in different ways. So with a South African citizen living and working abroad, I have been able to secure up to 100% loan to value, which doesn't require a deposit. Even for building loans, I've been able to assist South African citizens living and working abroad and applying for home loans here. I've been able to secure 100% requirement of the purchase price for them. Then with regards to a foreigner applying, the banks, well, the SA Reserve Bank caps that at a 50% loan to value, which means that the foreigner that's applying would be required to raise 50% as a deposit towards that property purchase. So these are the main, sort of assessment criteria points that we look at when we are scoring individuals that are not working and living here in the country. We can also incorporate future rental. As you know, that is something newly introduced by some of the banks here that we are partnering with, and we can then add for you a rental percentage, future rental percentage that you can look to potentially earn on the property that you're buying as a percentage of the affordability. And that's also how we could boost your affordability in that way. And then we look at credit score checks as well. So for the South African citizens out there that are living and working abroad, so important, I cannot stress this more enough, is try to maintain an active credit footprint here in South Africa. Even though most of your life is being lived out there, you're taking out facilities abroad, you setting up a life for yourself there. If you are planning to purchase property here in South Africa, very important, keep 1 or 2 accounts open and active. Keep paying them on a regular basis. Do not skip those payments. Keep an active bank account here open and use it, even if it's just purely to send a few relatives some cash back home and transact from there, or paying like a retail account that it's a clothing account or something that you've purchased on. Just keep that open, keep it active, because that all goes towards whether you qualify for 100% loan to value without a deposit requirement, or whether you'd be asked to pay up a deposit or contribute a 10 to 15 to 20% deposit on your property purchase. So very, very important to maintain that active footprint here in South Africa on your profile. And yeah, I think that's, for the most part, everything that encompasses an application that's being assessed for the purchase of a property for a South African citizen living and working abroad, as well as for a foreign national. Now, with a foreign national, it's also a good idea for you to look into opening a local bank account here when you've traveled to South Africa, because I would assume that in your planning process to have chosen South Africa as your base to invest in a foreign country to purchase property, or whether you live here as a foreigner at the moment and you're looking to purchase property here, it's important for you to activate a local bank account profile here, because that's essentially where the banks need to debit the monthly installment from. So we cannot use an international account to debit the monthly installment from. You will need to open up that local bank account here. So those are just the few tips and things that I can share with you regarding this topic.